All right, everybody, I'm just bringing up my screen. Okay, you should now be seeing the agenda. Mike, can you see the agenda? You're on mute.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the KubeStellar community meeting for Thursday, April 30th, 2026. The year is just flying by. Our meetings are every other Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You're welcome to join us. Do so and get an invite to this meeting and get the ability to edit this specific note by going to kubestellar.io/join_us. You can check out our meeting calendar. It's located at the top of this folder as well. Once you join that group, you automatically get invites to this and all the other meetings that we have, and you get access to these documents. You can see the replay of this video at kubestellar.io/TV. That's our YouTube channel. And you can see this agenda at kubestellar.io/agenda. If you have any meeting topics you'd like to add, please add them to the associated or the related listing below. You can see it's April 30th, 2026. Put it at the bottom of that, and we'll get to you over time of this meeting. We do abide by a contributor code of conduct as proud members of the CNCF Community Sandbox program. So I'll read it here. As contributors and maintainers in the CNCF community, and in the interest of fostering an open and welcoming community, we pledge to respect all people who contribute through reporting issues, posting feature requests, updating documentation, submitting pull requests or patches, and other activities. We are committed to making participation in the CNCF community a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of level of experience, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, disability, personal appearance, body size, ethnicity, race, age, religion, or nationality. And what I like to say at the end of that little burb is it's just common sense, and I think it's nice to be nice to everybody. So if you can, please be nice to others while you're here, we'd appreciate it. If you're attending the call and you'd like to, please opine your name and affiliation here in the attendees list that I'm highlighting. Okay, so just a general note, if you'd like to follow us in Slack, we are part of the CNCF Slack org. And you can get yourself an invitation by going to this pretty little link here. It's an inviter. And then you can join our channel, which is KubeStellar-Dev. And that has a nice little name with an alphanumeric that nobody ever remembers. And we were at KubeCon Amsterdam from the 23rd to the 26th. Paulo and Braulio gave a nice talk that's probably posted online, and I should put the link in here at some point. I was at the Project Pavilion and gave a lightning talk also on behalf of KubeStellar Console. The conference was very well attended, so we think that it was a pretty good success for the CNCF in general. I'd have to say that traffic to the Project Pavilion was not as it typically is, but we get that from time to time just based on the placement of the pavilion. The lightning talk was probably about 200 or 300 people there, so that was an incredible turnout. But that's that lightning talk on Mondays, usually the only place where people can go that don't have didn't pay for other separate breakout sessions that are hosted by the CNCF that day. So it's kind of like they herd everybody into that. So that's pretty cool though. We appreciate that. All right, so here's the IFOS update. The term one term started, and we had 2 user adoption focused programs, and they are in motion. They're at week 7, almost week 8 now. Those will be completing in a couple of weeks' time, I think mid-May. And as a result, we've gotten, I think, probably about 10 people working on separate items within this. For the most part, they're opening issues against the user interface and the user and issues for user experience for the console, which has been very much appreciated. Some others have been doing some plugins and working in the marketplace, but for the most part, people have been working on the console, which is great. The console has improved remarkably because of their input, and we really appreciate everybody who's taking the time to be part of it. We do have internship for term 2 coming up ahead, and that's going to be focusing on, I think that term starts in June. I'll have to look that up. But we have 3 test based, let's see, 3, testing internships or mentor programs, mentee programs, and one will be console backend. And these have been merged already. People are already applying, but people will be able to apply soon. One second. Console front end, test design and implementation. And I forgot what the third one focuses on. Okay. But I have that in the issue list. I can look it up. All right. So these will be open for application fairly soon. And the design of the program is to improve our testing of all the back end and the front end. Back end primarily, the majority of the tests, there's about 90 to 91% coverage based on any given day. Those A lot of those tests have to do with mock service workers, and that has a lot to do with demo data. And what we'd like to do is shift that more into using live data, and that prescribes having a live setup inside of our CI that would actually work against mock clusters. And so that's going to be a very interesting and convoluted internship. I look forward to seeing how that produces results. The front end, we've had some touch and go with Playwright. Playwright is a very good tool, but finding ways to use Playwright in ways that make sense are not as easy as they sound on the surface. For instance, what I mean by that is that if you should have an issue that says something is broken, and then a PR fixes that issue automatically, as is prescribed in our repo. Um, if the PR adds an element or changes an element inside of the user interface, it's very hard for Playwright to detect if the user can see the new element, right? If does the user element show up in a way that the user can see it? About 50% of the time it works, and the other 50% of the time it could be hidden by a Z index, for instance. The models that we use and the models that are available to us to use that are out in the wild and in AI don't really work well for AI design, um, and I'm sorry, for UI design, and therefore they fail miserably when it comes to interpreting how a user might use the interface. And so we're looking to do some more work in that area, and we're actually going to have some folks from Georgia Tech joining us. I think two, yeah, two people from Georgia Tech, two students will be joining us, and I've already also asked for some volunteers from Georgia Tech. So their goal will be to work also on working out ways to make the user interface and user experience easier to test, so that when PRs open that make changes to the user interface and user experience, they can be evaluated on a very on criteria that makes sense for a human. And that's going to be, I think, a very difficult task, but we're going to spend the summer primarily working on that. And so that's where what we're focusing on. So back end is mostly coverage tests, uh, with live, not mock MSW data. And so that requires some kind of CI that would spin up or have always available to it a console with maybe a Docker. No, I'm sorry, not a Docker. Maybe like a kind cluster or two or three of those available. And then on the front end, it would be mostly Playwright, uh, better use of Playwright to enforce PR changes, or to analyze PR changes affecting the UI/UX. Human perspective. Okay. So that's about it. Cornell continues to work on enclave and confidential computing. Georgia Tech's OSPO, again, they'll be giving two students starting in summer. Okay, and oh wow, look at that. I already had this. Oh, mission control. There was it. Well, I guess if I read my own agenda, I would know this, but it's good to move it up anyway because it's starting. Let's get this in there. And the mission control, this would be for orbits, for installers, for fixes, for, and what was the last one? Just mission control in general. Mission control, etc. Everything having to do with mission control and missions. Okay. We've got two external maintainers for the KubeStellar console project. One is a graduate of our mentor program, mentee program, and another is an external contributor from another project. And so they've been added. We are looking for one more external maintainer. We hope to, over the course of time, find them. So that does it for iPhos and console right now. Mike, do you want to give any comments about the upgrade? I saw that there was a merged PR for upgrade.
Yeah, that's a huge one that got stuck on one person's shoulders for a few months. That finally did get merged. This person um, learned a lot about Git in the process and other stuff. I think maybe he was surprised at how much. I was surprised at how difficult it was. I think we both expected it to be much more mechanical and simple than it turned out to be. Um, Anyway, that I've been holding a bunch of other stuff because that one was big, has a big cross section. I didn't want merge conflicts to deal with. So that unblocks a lot of other work. The next big thing is, well, I want to really want to do a release, but before that, I want to clean up small things like dependency bumps. We have a lot from Dependabot, which could be simply accepted, except for we established earlier this different way of doing things with our own database of what we accepted. So I have a PR open right now to retire that database so that we can just use Dependabot. So once that PR gets merged, then I can accept all the stuff from Dependabot. And with a bunch of bumps done, then I think we can talk about a release. Now, another issue is that some of the bumps get us in trouble with the license checker. We do have a license checker configured, um, and some of the dependency bumps, not action bumps, but dependency bumps, uh, change or trigger failures from the dependency, or sorry, the license checker. And it requires, I'm not privileged enough to see the complaints. I get a red statement that says there's a problem, but I can't see what the problem is. So actually, I need to follow up with Andy or someone who knows about that.
Okay. All right, Mike. Yep. Happy to do that. All right. Okay, so I think I don't see Kevin on. So is Kevin on? I don't think so. No, I don't see him. Okay. So then we'll just move on. All right. So the final thing I wanted to go over today is that this new project we've been working on called Hive. Hive's top, highest level understanding of what Hive is that it it helps you reach level 6 autonomy for a given repo or a set of repos. So what you can see here is in front of you is what is the incarnation of KubeStellar Hive. And KubeStellar Hive, what it's intended to do is to take a list of repositories. So here we have console, console KB, console docs. No, I'm sorry, not console docs, just docs. Homebrew tap, which is the console's homebrew or tap for homebrew, and console KB, which is his knowledge base. It reads these repos and looks for issues, NPRs that need to be addressed. Um, and as a result, it'll go ahead and it will assign issues to different agents to do its work. And some of these agents work well, most of these agents work autonomously. They don't rely on humans to do anything to interact with them. But the general gist of it is we've got a couple of agents that work in a non-deterministic way, but they take deterministic input. And I'll explain why that's important to understand while I talk about this. So the basic components of the hive are the governor, the supervisor, the scanner, the reviewer, the architect, and the outreach. These are the personas that exist inside the hive. And the hive is intended to work in a way in concert to be able to do work, address issues, merge PRs based on the issues that have been addressed, and work in a consistent way over and over again to keep the queue at a reasonable level of issues and PRs. So what you can see the governor doing right now is at the top is there's this gauge that runs across the top, and it looks for what's considered actionable issues. Actionable issues are defined as the issues that are currently not on hold in any of the repos. So if there's a label of hold on any of the issues, that issue will not be deemed as actionable. Once the issue is deemed as actionable, then we can assign a mode. And so right now you can see that there's idle, quiet, busy, and surge. This is configurable in Hive. You can change these the different delineations or boundaries for these numerically. Right now we're in a busy time. That means there's enough actionable issues in there to deem this system as being busy. The there is a The governor will take action at times when there is things like rate limiting, which you can see taking place. So the governor stepped in and says, I'm going to pause some things and let things happen that are important to happen and let other things that are not so important to happen to slow down for now. And so it's detected some rate limiting taking place in some of those agents. And so you can see the reviewer, the architect, and the outreach right now are paused. And that's because the system is limited, it has been rate limited. So it's detected that and it wants to slow down. And so what's really important though is that we service issues. So the scanner is welcome to continue and hopefully is not being rate limited, but we'll check in on it in a little while. So as because we're in any one of these modes, idle, quiet, busy, or surge, there's timings associated with each of these agents. The supervisor always runs at 5 minutes. This is all configurable once again. The scanner primarily works at 15-minute intervals at anything other than idle, but can work at idle. And then the reviewer also has cadences, which aren't shown here because it's paused. The architecture has cadences and outreach has cadences. So you also list here is which CLIs are invoked right now. I've chosen to pin the CLI and the models for each one of these. The governor, if I did not pin this, the governor would assign these automatically and respawn these agents with the appropriate CLI and model as it deemed necessary. Below that, you can see token usage. So token usage is based on reading things like the JSON-L files that are being created by Claude or Copilot. It's based on reading messages that are flying about the system. It's doing this in a way that's non-obtrusive and can be measured after the fact or after the agents have done some work. It's also split that out into the total number of tokens that have been consumed, how many how many inputs have been given, how many outputs have been given. Um, Breaks this down by all of the agents and what they're primarily consuming. And you can see that Scanner by far is consuming the most, and we'd expect that because there's issues that come in. And then it'll enumerate the sessions and what their trend is right now. What are the sessions working on and how are they trending? Um, we also use something called Beads, which Beads is very cool technology. It's part of Gastown, but it's also an open source project. Gastown uses it as well, I guess. You think of it as a persistence layer for context for agents that transcends restarts of agents and restarts of CLIs. It's outside and apart from the agent itself. And so you can rely on beads to have records of what's been worked on by agents. And then if the agent should be restarted or go away or not or be rate limited or stop or be respawned, the a new agent can spin up and instantly it reads the beads that are associated with it and just continues to do work. So that's really cool. So we can transcend those problems. So you can see the supervisor is it's kicking every 5 minutes. On the right side, you can see its cadence. You can see when it last ran, when it's running again. It's running right now, actually. How many tokens it's consumed, how many tokens per pass it's consumed, and how many times it's restarted in the last 24 hours. And currently it's working. You can see a summary that's taking place here. I can also interject a prompt to say, like, work on something else, and it'll take this in, it'll issue this to the agent right then and there, so I can do things dynamically if I see an issue. And you can see the scanner is working on things, and it will continue to work on things as is noted, and what it finds it needs to work on. You can see these are the merged PRs today so far, and what's been discovered and what's been worked on. It's pretty cool. It's doing its job. The reviewer, its job is primarily to work on CI/CD. So its job is to make sure code coverage stays at a given level. We want 90%, 91% or higher. It makes sure that artifacts like brew, helm, weekly tests, nightly tests, deployments, and all that work properly. And then you have the architect. Its job is to make sure that all the NFRs um, are cared for in a repo. And that means things like, is the code, are there dead sections of the code that can be removed? Is the code resilient? Is it performant? Is it consistent? Et cetera, et cetera. So the architect, when it runs, is tasked with doing those types of things. And so that's generally speaking how the Hive works. And it looks like I have a refresh issue on the page, and I'll take care of that just after the call. But are there any questions about how Hive works, or anything that you want to talk about Hive? Okay, I don't hear
Well,
anything.
I'll
Go ahead,
have a
Mike.
question. Yeah, I
Yep,
mean it's a discussion question. We may not have time for it.
sure.
I'm intrigued by the mention of NFRs. Um, older practice among humans is that we would take the NFRs into consideration in each review. And I see here that it's been deferred to something that's not part of each review, but is separate and occasional. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe speak to the why of that or
Yeah,
the quality of the
this is a
result.
really good question, Mike. So, one of the things that I've noticed in working on this and on console in general, as a DevOps engineer, if I switch hats there, I might think that the goal of a project is to make the CI, and as a test engineer, I might think that the goal of the project is that every PR should run every test every time. And I'll let you know that on average, it takes the tests that we run at night quite a number of hours to complete. I don't know the most recent number, but it's anywhere on the order of 3 to 4 hours to run. That's first. Second, um, agents themselves, if tasked with doing more work, consume more tokens. So relying on the agents to do that work gets very expensive very fast. You run out of tokens. And so offloading that into the CI is useful. And as I just stated in step one, you don't want the CI to do everything or you'll never get a PR through. So the idea here is that you do things in separation that maximize or minimize the time spent to get them, to get the issue fixed and back out to the customer, and maximize or the efficiency of the agent to minimize token use. And so if you split the CI apart and you say PRs shall not run the entire test suite, they'll just do the basics of build and lint, make sure the build doesn't break, and do some basic smoke tests. You can get much faster throughput for issue to PR to close. Having said that, you still don't want to go too long without doing more testing than that. So we have the notion of an hourly test that runs. And an hourly test, when it runs, it goes ahead and figures out, what do I have to work on. I'll test some things, and then because I work every hour, I've only merged, 6 or 7 PRs in the last hour, let's say. So I can go back and I can blame the issue, blame the PR, and I can rectify the problem before it goes too much further and minimize the blast radius. But I've done this in a way that is not impacting the speed of the issue in the PR to close. And then after that, you get to the nightly test. The nightly tests are all encompassing and run for hours on hours. They're not dependent on an agent, they're deterministic and therefore don't chew up tokens. They are part of the package of using CI effectively. And therefore, they run much more efficiently because they don't consume tokens. And we still have time to catch problems that people might not find on the surface. They don't, things that we're testing for in the nightly are not like, does the startup script work? Does the OAuth work? Does the update mechanism work? Does the feedback mechanism work? Those are things that are immediate needs, and they'll be taken care of on an hourly or maybe in the sky as part of a smoke test. But the breadth and understanding how the project is performing or working as a whole can happen nightly. So this idea of splitting apart the CI and splitting apart the concerns, the area of concerns that the agents work on, makes it more efficient, right, and less costly. And to answer your question more directly about the architect will come in and talk and look at NFRs holistically. So the scanner, the issue scanner that's running right now, you can't have it running amok and saying, I need to look at all this code and I need to find out if I'm doing NFRs and I need to, because you A, quickly it'll run out of tokens. You'll be rate limited. And B, you will also wind up in a situation where the agent's gone rogue. It's gone outside of its controlled little box or prompt and started working on things that aren't um, inherently important, and will start working on things other than what its primary responsibility is. So it's lost its identity at that point, if you want to look at it that way. I hope that helps address your question, Mike. It's a great question.
Well, it is the beginning of a discussion. So I have a few points, and then we're going to run out of time. Actually, we're about to close the meeting, so I'll just have to stop here. Um,
Okay,
yeah, there's much more to say.
great. Well, great question, Mike. Thank you for letting me present it. Okay. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for us here. If you have any other questions or comments, we're on KubeStellar-dev. Please drop by and see what you think about the project. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.